There is the blatant violation of Article 227 of the Constitution and the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015. Article 227 of the Constitution, as read with the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015, provides that when a state organ contracts for services, such as procurement, should be done through a system that is fair, equitable, transparent, competitive, and cost-effective. The government should explain how Dubai Port World (FZE) was identified to take over our national assets and whether the contract meets the criteria of fairness, equity, transparency, competitiveness, and value for money. In Article 227 of the Constitution as read with the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. Additionally, government owes Kenyans answers to the following questions. Who owns Dubai Port World (FZE)? Is it a company owned by local senior state officials? How much taxpayers' money has been given to the company so far? Which other companies applied to do the job, if any? What is the value of the contract? And why were the provisions of Section 134 of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act not complied with? Further, Kenyans must also know whether the procurement of the company was a government-to-government agreement, and if so, why Section 4(2) subsection F of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act did not apply. In this sinister scheme that contravenes the Public-Private Partnership Act, a superficial foreign entity will take charge of 1. Redevelopment of berths 11 to 14 and a special economic zone at the Mombasa port. 2. Equipping and operating the container terminal at the port of Lamu. 3. Development of a special economic zone next to the port of Lamu. 4. Development and operating cold chains and logistic parks at both Kisumu and Naivasha. In contention is not just that national assets are being disposed of sneakily, but also the illegality in the opaque and hurried nature of this transfer of national assets. Government cannot hide under the Public-Private Partnership Act. In the light of the foregoing, we wish to go on record and call out the President of Kenya on this matter. There's a famous saying, we all know that if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then probably it is a duck.
Absolutely.
From the shortcuts we have exposed, the auction of our ports look like corruption. It is swimming like corruption. It is shouting like corruption. And it is certainly corruption. Kenyans are probably staring at the biggest corruption scandal ever. It is a clever machination to fleece Kenyans of billions of shillings before a new government takes over. In fact, the establishment of the Azimio political outfit was principally intended to perpetuate state capture and to privatize national strategic assets using offshore companies whose agents are in the top echelons of Azimio leadership.
Shame.
If government is humbled enough to come clean, the starting point should be to tell Kenyans who owns the contract company and what interests senior state officers have in the company. As patriotic Kenyans, we say no to any plan to defraud our people. God bless you, and God bless Kenya. Kenyans want to know the details of the contract and whether it adheres to procedures for the identification, selection, feasibility study, pre-tender approval, tendering, negotiation, post-tender approval, monitoring, and evaluation of the projects as provided under the Public-Private Partnership Act. We challenge the government to make public any process and procedure under the Public-Private Partnership Act used to procure such a massive tender. Let Kenyans know the parameters used to initiate the project proposals, to show whether the tender was competitive, and how the tender was awarded to one company without opening the tender for open bidding, noting the costs implications. In protocols observed, if any, in negotiations and the negotiations between the parties, we would like to see all these. Lest the government plays ignorant, we reiterate that the government of Kenya owes its citizens an explanation as to why the following legal issues were glossed over. 1. Lack of public participation, opaqueness, and secrecy of the takeover. We at Kenya Kwanza are sure that until now, Kenyans did not know that there is an ongoing secret process to have our ports taken over by a company based in UAE. This is proof that this may be an engagement between a few people in government who may be keen to conclude the illegal deal with speed before government changeover in August. B. We remind unethical government operatives that Article 10 of the Constitution spells out the national values and principles for all state officers making decisions. They are obligated to hold public participation consultations. We hold the government guilty of the illegality in engaging a foreign company with no consultations and without any information to the public. A few people cannot sit and, by a stroke of the pen, hand over our national strategic assets to a foreign company. They are in breach of the Constitution for abuse of power and whose improper motive is the possibility of corrupt deals being made by them. Lack of cabinet approval on national strategic assets. And ladies and gentlemen, you will recall here that cabinet did not meet for almost 2 years.
Shame.
Yes.
It was after the hue and cry from Kenya Kwanza that we saw a cabinet meeting being convened a few weeks ago. Ports the world over form part of national strategic security assets in the security architecture of a country. It shames Kenyans that the takeover of our national strategic and security assets by a foreign entity has been done without cabinet approval. It is our submission that national strategic assets belonging to the people of Kenya cannot be auctioned by one person in a manner akin to disposal of private personal property. Non-involvement of the counties. Paragraph 18 of Part 1 and Paragraph 5 of Part 2 of the 4th Schedule to the Constitution provides that transport, including matters relating to ports and harbors, is a function within the concurrent jurisdiction of both the national and county governments. It appears expeditious corruption that the counties of Lamu, Mombasa, and Nakuru and Kisumu were not consulted in respect to the auction of the ports. But this is not new. It is the history of this government that it chooses to abrogate the Constitution whenever state officers' interests are at stake. Non-involvement of Parliament. A matter as critical and fundamental as to takeover of our national strategic asset cannot be purported to be constitutionally processed and concluded without the involvement of Parliament. Articles 93, 94, 95, and 96 of the Constitution that spell out the roles of Parliament were breached. It is not surprising, but is still shocking, that the Departmental Committee on Transport of the National Assembly, responsible for all matters transport, including our ports, is unaware of this scheme. Bypassing Parliament puts the viability of the projects at risk, given that the handover is scheduled to take place when Parliament is on a sine die, ensuring the illegality and corruption is effected and interrupted. Today, we reveal to Kenyans a clandestine plot by the outgoing handshake government of Uhuru and Raila to illegally mortgage our ports of Mombasa, Lamu, and Kisumu to a foreign country. In a secret deal, under the guise of an economic cooperation agreement with the United Arab Emirates, and which epitomizes grand corruption, Uhuru has assented to a rip-off that will see a foreign, privately registered entity, Dubai Port World, FZE, take over these key national infrastructural assets. Indeed, why would a government with only less than 5 weeks to leave office hurriedly and secretly auction the operations, development, redevelopment, and management of all our ports to a foreign entity? An accountable government should confide in Kenyans why national strategic and security assets are being handed over to a foreign entity. The government should also tell Kenyans why it is risking national security in a clandestine deal at the behest of seemingly vested local interests in the offshore company. Under the ill-disguised economic cooperation agreement, supposedly signed on March 1st, 2022 by the CS Treasury, Mr. Ukur Yatani, Kenya will cede ownership and control of not only the 3 ports, but also supporting infrastructure at the ports in the hinterland. It is shocking that Dubai Port will take over the development, operations, management, and expansion of transport logistics service in the Republic of Kenya. The deal was mooted in a meeting in Mombasa, disguised as Raila's birthday party, attended by outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, and the Governor of Mombasa, Ali Hassan Joho, amongst other state capture agents who are the principal beneficiaries of the deal. Kenyans will also remember that soon thereafter, the trio made several trips to Dubai jointly and severally. There is also the issue of public interest. Where is the public interest in allowing takeover of our national strategic assets by a foreign company? Are Kenyans unable to manage our ports to a point where we cede these national strategic assets to foreigners? Are there no Kenyan companies that can redevelop cold chain logistics in Naivasha port? Further, lack of public interest raises serious concerns or questions about government commitments to Kenyans. What are the local content requirements, provisions in the Lamu takeover contract? Will our people continue working at the port? Which public interest is served by redeveloping the Naivasha inland port? In whose interest, therefore, are our national assets being auctioned without citizens knowing? The answers to these questions only lead to one conclusion. The ongoing auction is meant to divert billions of shillings to some corrupt people's pockets, 5 weeks to elections, and further benefit senior state officers with undisclosed interests in the ports.
Big shame.
This is the perfect thing that you call the scorched earth policy. When people are exiting, they try to do so many things in a hurry so that the incoming government walks in and finds all the wells, water wells have been poisoned. Okay? That is what you call the scorched earth policy. Yani ukihama, unahama ukiharibu huko nyuma, ili mtu akija asipate nafasi. Yeah? So the message we are putting out here is that why would an outgoing government be in a hurry to engage in such obligations? Why don't you allow this to be suspended? Let the next government or other institutions come in. Let them have an opportunity to examine the steps that have indicated have been all missed out, so that a process can be done, and if it is proper and there's value for money, then Kenyans must be told. But we cannot have a situation where this is being hurried and you have, as you say, 5 weeks to go for an existing government. Then we can only say that there's something sinister.
We as Kenya Kwanza have enough lawyers in our closet to go to court and demand this information, and we will do so. That the government ignored demands in the past doesn't mean they'll get away with it this time. And in addition to that, this letter signed by Ukuru Yatani and its content indicate that the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya is an accomplice to this fraudulent transaction because he has sanctioned the transaction. In comparable democratic jurisdictions, Yatani and Justice Kariuki must reconsider their positions and resign and leave office, one, in the name of accountability, but more importantly, for fair and transparent investigations to be carried out in their conduct. That they may not leave because impunity is the other name for the government of Jubilee, headed by President Uhuru Kenyatta, that they will not leave only lends credit to the statement that we have issued today, that there's an opaque, corrupt, stinging, and above all, anti-people transaction aimed at robbing our assets, which we as Kenya Kwanza, the incoming government by August this year, will not countenance, and we want to tell them clearly that they may ignore this statement for now. After 10th August, it will be a different ballgame. And you all know that we have other stinging transactions that will much sooner than later be releasing in small doses to them for Kenyans to know the saga behind the expressway and many other things. Thank you.
The players, especially in the Azimio team, led by their chairman, the President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and their presidential candidate Raila Odinga, to tell us who really owns this company purported to be from the UAE. Who are the players? We have more information, but we'd like them to come out and tell Kenyans what is their role in this. From a county's perspective, counties are supposed to be involved. The Council of Governors, we are not aware of these deals. These are things that are happening in the dark. This is nothing that just Azimio la Ukora. They are trying to mortgage our country, take things away from us last minute. And we urge them and we tell them clearly that there should be no more deals done. Actually, you shouldn't do any deals within 6 months of handing over government. It is totally illegal. It is improper. Within 6 months of handing over government, don't enter into deals. It is quite scary because we do not know what other areas of Kenya have been mortgaged. We don't know what else belongs to us and belongs to other agents. But the key factor is it is not just mortgaging to other countries to take care of what we have. It is people with their self-interest to make money out of our country. It is a continuation of what we've been saying throughout, that people want to maintain the status quo. The few rich people, the dynasty, community, to continue ruling this country, whether we like it or not, and the rest of us to suffer. And what we are saying here as Kenya Kwanza, that is enough, and we are going to out them, and we are going to expose them to the people of Kenya, and this is a mega port scandal. And it is one of many that will come to light in the next few days.
I think I just want to add one thing, and especially to the Kenyan people, to see how this government treats the Kenyan public with a lot of disrespect and detest. Because if they cared for the people of Kenya, this issue should not have arisen because they would have been consulted. And I would like to urge the people of the coast region, the people of Mombasa and of Lamu, to look on Nakuru and Kisumu, to look at which coalition has their interests at heart, especially because of this matter, and vote for the Kenya Kwanza, because they can see that this coalition that is currently being managed by the current government definitely does not care for them as counties, as the people at these regions, and also the people of Kenya.
But letter, and I'm sure if you read this letter by the Minister for National Treasury, Ukur, dated 30th of March 2022, where in one of its paragraphs says the Attorney General, who is the legal advisor of government, has already declared this. The matter we are discussing is a matter where national assets and security assets have been transferred to a foreign company in violation of all the issues the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi has raised: public participation, parliament role, the role of counties in terms of their functions in the schedule, ratification of treaties. Even when an airline, a foreign airline, wants to fly into our country, it must seek parliamentary approval through the relevant committee. This is mortgaging ports already, and I want to answer the previous question. That already a Kenyan went to court on SGR seeking the contract, and a principal secretary in his affidavit said it cannot be availed to public. So it's another scandal. So this is the state of state capture, and 4 ports and all the logistic infrastructure have been mortgaged to a foreign company by those who are responsible and who are the cartels of state agents. The question that you really want to pick from here, because we have given you an evidence, is from here you go to Ukur and Justice Kihara and challenge them on what we are saying. You cannot mortgage, you cannot give DP World to run the development, the redevelopment, the management of the port of Mombasa, berth 11 to 14, berth 1 to 3 of Lamu, the whole cold chain system and the port of Kisumu, by 3 individuals. This is what we are telling the people of Kenya. We have talked about state capture. And I want to say it here, even Parliament and the parliamentary reporters are here. Parliament for 2 years rejected the Kenya Aviation Bill, where the whole of Kenya Airports Authority was to be handed over to a private entity. To a private entity. Part of the state capture. We are aware of how National Oil Corporation, the only state-owned oil company, is being handed over. So we are telling the people of Kenya, and all these, let me put it, and that's why President Kenyatta, unlike his predecessor, who were to exit at the end of their term, doesn't want to exit. That's why he's the chairman of Azimio. Now in fact, we have found out why the president wants to succeed himself. Because of all these state capture and state involvement. So, good people, I think the statement given by Honorable Musalia on our behalf and the evidence we have provided will help you enough further to go and ask the other partners. I am sure the people of Mombasa will be shocked. They were complaining about the port being transferred, the operations of the port of Mombasa being transferred. Now we are telling the people of Mombasa, your port is gone. The title deed is with the Chinese. The operation and the management and the development is now with DP World. Dubai. And we will even write to DP World through their embassy here. We will not leave this matter because as leaders we are the custodian under the Constitution to protect, preserve national strategic interests. And that's why the framers of our Constitution gave Parliament the people's representative and counties exclusive constitutional mandate to be consulted. That is why public participation under Article 118 is mandatory. The people of Mombasa will be asked, and Kisumu. That is why there's the element of public interest. And senior counsel, lawyers like Honorable Wetangula will tell you. And that's why we are saying in the schedule, harbors are under counties. The operation of the port is under the national government, but harbors and are under counties. So Joho must have said somewhere, faked some minutes, did fake public participation, and but I don't know whether the governor for Nakuru and the governor for Kisumu and even the governor for Machakos, because part of this letter is the infrastructure. So good people, I think you have more questions to ask those who captured the culprits than us. And we are ready to give more, as time goes by. And we can even raise issues one day to the election. There's no timeline. If we find any wrongdoing, we will say it one day to the election. We are not late. We are not late. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to give Kenyans hope regarding this subject, because of course the contract stink to the heavens and back, that the government of Kenya Kwanza will not be bound to respect or even to implement these contracts. You see, they are long-term contracts because they are illegal, they are unconstitutional. We shall not respect the contracts, we shall disregard them, and those purported beneficiaries, who are actually people from this country in top leadership as stated, will have to meet the expenses of cancellations of those contracts.